Welcome back. And as we were beginning this bulletin earlier on, we had told you that we shall be speaking with Inspector General of Police, that is Joseph Boinett. So much of your feedback, even before this interview begins. He will be here to tell us more about himself and specifically the security of the nation. What is the government doing? And also as the Inspector General of Police, what has he done for the nation? His plan to ensure that you and I are safe. And of course, so much of your feedback concerning the student who was shot dead. And of course, also the Matatu tout who has been harassing passengers, and of course a lot of insecurity in different parts of the country when it comes to the northeastern region, where some teachers or non-locals who were non-locals actually decided to move out of that region because of insecurity. So much of your feedback. And this evening, as I've told you, we have Inspector General of Police Joseph Boinett in the studio. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And feel at home.
Thank you.
We are speaking to Inspector General of Police Joseph Boinett, and we had actually asked him who he is apart from being a public servant, his private life, and he was telling us that he's to different parts of the country. That is a conversation that we were having earlier on, and we apologize for that technical hitch that we had earlier on before we took the commercial break, but we're right back with Inspector General of Police Joseph Boinett. And you're telling us that you've toured different parts of the country. You know, people didn't know like this private side of your life. People just knew you as that man who takes care of us. But what really inspired you to get into the security sector?
I would say I drew the inspiration to join the security sector because of especially very close relatives and neighbors in the village. That village is called Ainabkoi, where I grew up in. Mm-hmm. Went to Moi Primary School close by, and there were certain farmers who were the stars, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Back then?
Correct, yeah, and they had fantastic little farms. Mm-hmm. So I admire the discipline in which they led their lives, mm-hmm. Because these are people who broke no nonsense, and, okay. So they would be known. There's a former police officer, there's a former CID officer, there's a former army officer. So I admire the discipline
so that's what
that comes along with
it. Gave you that passion of joining the security sector. Yeah. And as much as you're painting this picture, like it was, you got the desire to join because of the people who are around you. But what are some of the challenges that you've had once you joined the security force? Because it's not all been rosy.
Obviously, it hasn't been all rosy. Because one thing that I think it needs to be told is serving in the security sector is a calling. Mm-hmm. Because those of us who join because they want to earn a wage or to earn a living, as it were, mm-hmm. they easily get disappointed and leave. Mm-hmm. But those who stick on and continue serving the country mm-hmm. are inspired by a higher calling, mm-hmm. who are fired up by the zeal of being patriotic. Okay. The desire to serve society and bring out the good in all of us. Okay.
So, yes. But I believe remuneration is not just the only challenge.
Oh, certainly, yeah. Because those of us who come in and leave are certainly inspired by other things other than service to humanity. Mm-hmm. So if one gets into the security sector to earn a wage, as I said, mm-hmm. you usually get disappointed. Okay. Because the pay in comparative terms as compared to other sectors even in the public sector, even in the private sector, mm-hmm. is small, as it were. Okay. Yeah.
So now you get into this sector, you're inspired, you have your challenges. At the same time, you have people who admire you, and at the same time, you have people who just don't like you. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's a job that has to be done, and in law enforcement, you'll make very many people very happy, mm-hmm. because they can go about their lives with ease, without fear, mm-hmm. because that is the ultimate intent of serving the security sector. Mm-hmm. Parliament makes laws, we enforce the law. Mm-hmm. Those we put to jail are certainly not happy, mm-hmm. But the wider society gains because we drive away criminals, and we allow the country to grow. Okay. We allow others to engage in other walks of life without any fear and in confidence.
Okay. Yes. And in so many occasions when you crack the whip, when you feel like the law is not being followed by Kenyans. You've always found, you've even read some of the tweets. Like at times you find Joseph Boinett trending on Twitter. Like when you find all this criticism, you know, being channeled towards you, how do you feel as a person who's supposed to be out there protecting Kenyans? Do you feel discouraged at the end of the day, or does it give you motivation? What drives you?
I will answer the first part and to say that I don't take it personal. I don't feel discouraged, because this is a free country, it's a democratic country, and everyone is free to air their own views. And on this one, I take it as a job that I love, and I want to do the right thing all the time. And that right thing is to ensure that Kenyans have their public safety and public security provided to the extent that we can. And the bad guys are kept away. So if anyone is not happy with the way we enforce the law, then it's up to them.
Because, you know, so many people have always questioned how the police enforce the law. And we've even seen human rights coming on board as saying you use live bullets. And we've seen several deaths occurring during this, when police are enforcing the law. We've seen several people being injured. And then the next thing you're hearing is you're conducting investigations, or the police comes out and says, this is a report, even before the investigations begin, or even before we find the final report of the investigations.
First of all, as I said, in enforcing the law, we certainly make very many people very unhappy, or some people for that matter. But the wider society is happy. And for us, in enforcing the law, we don't go out there to look popular. We do it because it's a duty. It's a constitutional duty. And in instances of breakdown of law and order, especially in matters of public order. Say, for instance, there's a demonstration, and the demonstrators have been ordered to disperse, some refuse. The law sets out the procedures in which that have to be followed. Okay. And they're clearly set out in the Public Order Act, and even in our own National Police Service Act. Okay. And in the instance where greater force has to be employed in dispersing say a riotous mob, the law is very, very clear on what needs to be done. Okay. Yeah. But
when the law is very clear on what needs to be done, Inspector General, let's have a look at the latest incident of what happened in Meru, at Meru University. A university student was shot, and what was being said is that he was found hiding. There was, of course, demonstrations, and police were called to bring in sanity, and things happened. And when he was running for his own safety, he ran into someone's compound. He was hiding, and it is being reported that 2 police officers went to where he was hiding, and one of the police officers actually shot at the student. Is that part of enforcing the law? That is the question that so many Kenyans are asking outside there, especially university students.
The first instance, I must say, that was a very unfortunate incident. And as I told you, that in restoring order, whenever there are instances of breakdown of law and order, say demonstrations for that matter, the law is very, very clear on what needs to be done. And sometimes there are excesses on both parts. Excesses perhaps on the part of demonstrators, refusing to disperse, and is constraining us to use force. And what we always endeavor is to make sure that whatever we do is legal, is proportionate, and is calibrated in such a way that we bring order within the shortest time possible. Now, in the instance of the unfortunate incident in Meru, the brief I have is, first of all, the university was not even open. It was closed on 1st of February because of their own other reasons. But we have had problems even as late as December to January, with students airing a number of grievances, making a lot of demands. And in this particular instance, the brief I have is there was a demonstration. There were gangs of youths who came to the highway, blocked the Meru-Maua road. So officers had been to be brought in to restore order. And then there was a shooting. As of now, we don't know the exact circumstances that that shooting occurred. And I've ordered my internal affairs unit to move in very quickly, establish what really happened, who was at fault. If it was one officer, certainly the law will follow its own course.
So what are you telling Kenyans?
And we'll hold whoever was responsible to account.
So what you're telling Kenyans tonight, Inspector General, is that the people who were causing this mayhem were gangsters?
No, I don't know whether they were students or...
They were gangsters?
I will not say they were gangsters.
Okay.
Maybe local youths, because the university was closed, so we don't know who they were.
Okay, but you've started investigations.
Exactly.
And if when you do your investigations, then you find that a police officer is capable of doing that, what is going to happen to this police officer? That officer will be charged in court. Okay. Yes. But even as you enforce your law, let's go back to another question that a viewer has asked and on a Twitter handle, and it is in terms of enforcing the law, and they feel like when it reaches that point of enforcing the law, there's some certain people that the law favor, and there's some certain people that the law doesn't favor. And even as you answer that, the next question is and this is in relation to a tout who is operating within the Meru shuttle, has been harassing passengers, and he keeps on claiming that he's connected to specific people who are powerful, that nothing can be done to him, and so he gets away with it. Have you heard of that case? You asked two questions. Number one is how we enforce the law. First of all, in our consideration, or as demanded by the Constitution and the law, we are all equal before the law, and we have no preferences. We enforce the law as it is, and whoever falls afoul of the law is taken to court. We have no preferences at all. Okay. Number two, on that out, yes, I've heard of an individual who has been even captured on the social media in parts of town, sometimes even forcing passengers to enter certain PSV vehicles, sometimes even assaulting some people. And I've heard about that allegation that he goes around bragging that he's well connected to some individual in some police station. And we have ordered investigations to get that fellow and take him before court. So when are we likely to see action? We'll certainly get him and take him before court. And take him before court? Yes. And the question Kenyans are asking tonight is, when are we likely to see action? Because most of the time we say we're conducting investigations, we wait for feedback, but we certainly don't get it. Well, I think that's an unfair comment to say that we don't arrest people and take them to court. We do, we take people to court. Okay. Yes. Now let's cross over to another question that Kenyans are asking. It's in terms of the court orders that were given. Which orders? The court order that you were supposed to appear before the court in beginning of this month, and mid this month rather, and you never appeared in court. And so Kenyans are saying that when you're talking about adhering to the law, you also didn't obey this other side of the law. No, we obeyed the law. We obeyed the law, and we have told court that we are very, very faithful servants of the law. We enforce the law, and we certainly cannot be the ones breaking it again. Allow me not to venture too much on that matter, because it's still live in court. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's cross away from that. Let's talk about the country's security. Where are we at as a country when it comes to our security? Well, you know, you've asked a very wide question, so I'll give you a broad answer. And my answer is, we are safe. We are safe? Yes. Okay. Now, safe for, obviously, a few challenges that we are tackling that include fighting terrorism, fighting major cattle rustling, as it were, and banditry, petty crimes in our urban sectors, including parts of our country in the rural areas. But by and large, we are okay. We are okay.
Yes.
And as much as you're saying we are okay, there's a teacher outside there, a non-local who is teaching, or rather was teaching in the northeastern region. And we recently saw the terror attack that happened. And this teacher is wondering, you're telling me we are safe, yet this happened. And that is why I want the Teacher Service Commission to move me from this region and bring me to a safer region. What do you have to tell this kind of a teacher?
I think one thing that needs to be understood by everyone is there's nothing like 100% security anywhere on earth. It doesn't exist. But in our local context, specifically in respect to the question that you have asked, it is very, very unfortunate that those criminals got access to that school. Very, very sadly murdered 2 teachers and the spouse of one of them. But I'm sure you are aware that we moved in very, very quickly, and we have even arrested one of those individuals who did that heinous act. And we know those who did it, and I'm certain we'll very soon catch up with them. In the general area of Wajir County, the county has enjoyed relative peace, despite the threat coming from across the border. In several months that have gone by, reason being we have enhanced our collaboration as security agencies. We have tightened surveillance along our border. We have increased the number of specialized units in certain vulnerable areas. And that also includes Mandera and Wajir, and Garissa and Lamu as well.
Okay. Okay.
So what needs now to be done is, whereas we are working quite hard in the national security community, we also would be better off if we worked much more closely with the communities.
Yeah, and I was actually getting there, because a few minutes ago you said that you know the people who are behind this attack that happened recently, and if you know them, when are they going to be arrested?
We have already arrested one, as I told you.
Yeah, we've already arrested one, but the entire...
We know the identities of the other 2 who did it, and we are hot on their trails. Okay,
you're hot on their trails. You're hot on the trails of these other remaining people. You've arrested one, and yes, the government, the Ministry of when it comes to security, the Ministry of Interior comes out to say that we need to work with members of the public, we need to work with the community. So just apart from relying on information of the security intelligence, warning you probably there's going to be a terror attack here, or something is being planned to take place in the country, and of course also working with the communities, members of the communities, but also as the Ministry of Interior, what are you doing to ensure that people who are planning evil for this country do not actually go ahead and execute that evil?
Well, you've basically summed what we do. That besides what we do in the national security community, because for us in the police, we operate at several levels, and we have endeavored to deepen and make it even closer, the collaboration between ourselves in the first instance, in the police, and at the second level, between ourselves and other national security agencies. The third level is between ourselves and all other arms of government, principally the national government administration. And then fourthly, and more importantly for us, our engagement and collaboration with the people of this country. Because as you will recall, His Excellency the President has said time and again, and that's what we also believe in, and not only believe in, but practice, that security is a collective responsibility. So this space called Kenya is ours, and we must all safeguard it very, very jealously.
Okay.
So those are the key principles that enables us to ensure that we provide public safety and public security.
Okay.
And then if you allow, so that it does not become a serikali or a government effort alone. It becomes a whole of nation endeavor. It's all of us. It's about all of us.
Okay. Before I finish, because we're running out of time, several questions over here. And This one is from a security police officer. I will not mention his name for his own security. He's asking two pertinent questions. One, why does it appear that there's some senior police officers who undermine junior police officers? And then two, we saw houses of police officers at Nairobi Central Police Station burned down. Actually, they burned to ashes. And he's asking two questions. One, when are we going to live in decent houses as police officers, as promised by the government? And two, why were police officers living in what he says shanties?
Well, I thank that police officer for asking that very pertinent question. But the first one is, I think, is wrong, I would say, because it is really not feasible that a senior police officer would undermine a junior police officer. Because we operate in systems, we have standing orders, and everybody knows what they are expected to be doing. And if anyone has, say, any grievance that they would wish to ventilate, there are channels of doing so. So if that officer is aggrieved in any way or another, there are ways of presenting those grievances.
Okay.
Number two, yes, we have a serious problem in housing, and government has been working very hard to support us in providing suitable housing for our officers. The incident at Central Police Station was a very, very sad one, in that officers, because of the crisis in Central Police Station, were constrained to use houses that were not really suitable, were not meant for them, as it were. But sadly, they caught fire and they got totally destroyed. Now, the good thing is, it has now given us an opportunity to totally rebuild Central. And very, very soon, you are going to see a new Central Police Station. Okay. Yes. And if you allow me, there was a question that you had asked, whether it does just occur to me that I should mention that one, as to how we have endeavored to improve the way we manage our policing docket. We've endeavored to keep pace with the contemporary security challenges. And one of the ways that we have done is improve the way we train. You probably recall that His Excellency the President came to launch our new service standing orders and also the new recruit training curriculum. It's completely new, and it focuses on training a police officer to police today's Kenya. Okay. It has modules that were not there before, like policing and technology, cross-cultural studies, so that a police officer can serve anywhere in this country without feeling like fish out of water. Okay. Because they will now understand that this country is diverse, and they need to know that one. We have also introduced new modules about policing and international relations, introduced modules like contemporary policing, as it were. So going forward, our efforts are aimed at catalyzing and deepening the reform and the transformational process in the National Police Service. So going forward, our vision is to build a world-class policing services for Kenya.
World-class policing services for Kenyans.
Police service.
Police service for Kenyans. Yes. Okay. And we have come to the end of our interview, and that should be your camera, the one on my right. In a minute, your message to Kenyans when it comes to our security, and even as you tell Kenyans your message, as you answer this also within a minute, is this person is asking, is Nyumba Kumi really working? Because we feel like the people who are overseeing the Nyumba Kumi are being paid for services that they're not rendering.
Quick answer. Nyumba Kumi is really a voluntary effort, is a community effort with communities, or representatives of communities on their own volition agreeing to work with the police to secure specific localities or specific communities. So they really not, it's not a paid employment, as it were. Number two is about what I would tell Kenyans.
Before you tell Kenyans that, still on Nyumba Kumi, it is that there is a concern that civilians tell police officers what is supposedly going to happen. And there's also a feeling that some of police officers are also part of these criminal gangs. Have you also heard of that complaint? Because this is something that's being raised by a Kenyan.
Well, the police is a reflection of the wider society. And we have all types of individuals. The overwhelming majority are very good people who seek to serve this country with diligence and honesty. But once in a while we get the bent ones amongst us, and we deal with them in accordance with the law.
So how do you deal with them according to the law? Do you remove them out of the police force, or do you arrest them, serve your jail term, get out, join back?
No, you breach the law. We process you according to our disciplinary code. If it is grievous enough, you get dismissed. You go to court as a civilian. Then the courts will deal with you as a mwananchi. As a raia.
And not as a police officer?
No, not as a police officer.
Okay, your message to Kenyans. The camera on my right should be your camera.
Public safety and public security is collective responsibility. It is primarily our job in the national security sector, but we also would wish to see greater collaboration, greater cooperation between ourselves in the sector and the wider Kenya public, because this country is ours and we must safeguard it jealously. We have no other country on earth. This is our home, and we need to, I will repeat, safeguard it and protect it with all we can.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That is Inspector General of Police Joseph Boinett, who has been speaking to us with a clear parting shot to Kenyans. This is our country. We need to safeguard it. Jealously, lots of your feedback on our Twitter handle, and the conversation continues. Our SMS line 22162. The conversation still continues there. My Twitter handle at Zeda Brenda, Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1, and of course, I can see so many people giving us feedback, questions. Also tag at J Boinett. That is his Twitter handle. He will also respond to some of the questions that you have for him tonight. Thank you so much for watching Perspective, where we have been talking about security matters in the country. I hope that we answered all your questions. Some that you've not answered, of course, we can see you've tagged him. He will be in a position to answer you. But let's take a short break.